photographs anymore, so I'm just using off of a library I've built up with my own pictures. But Ruth said, go ahead and use it. I said, nah.
Oh, I loved it. I just loved it. Really beautiful.
You know, the thing is, that little bird, that hummingbird, we see it here all the time. It's been here this morning. And if you were to have the light at your back, you'd have to move right, then that black on the hummingbird, it changes to brilliant red.
Oh,
You should sit over here, Jeannie.
the colors
No,
in
that's
that
good.
card
Right there's
are
better.
just beautiful.
I was going to say that she could see the birds.
You'll have time to look at those later.
Can I squeeze that mine? That's not really gonna work, is it?
It'll go.
Well, I mean, it'll just kind of crowd Jeannie out.
No, I'm fine. But am I holding it up there?
That's good. That's
Gonna
enough.
get dirty?
No, it's all right.
I always love your Christmas cards, but this one exceptionally. I mean, it just touched me. It
What's
was so
that one?
pretty. Mount Rainier from Mount Si. This must be a watercolor.
Hanging on the wall in there.
Oh, is it? Did Denise do it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. It has a little. Oh, I love it. Is it a card that you purchased from her?
No.
Or did you
well,
make it?
She made about
She
50
made-
of them
she-
for
she
us.
made quite a
or
few of them for
25
us.
or whatever.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
On cards like
Uh-huh.
that.
Pretty.
Well, you know, that was a hike that we used to take very often. It's by North Bend, Mount Si is. And
We
used to
did
hike
it down
up-
that day. The day that picture was taken from one I took.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was
I-
painted.
And then
from
she
a picture
painted
that
it
he-
from that picture.
Yeah. And
You want to move the table out a little bit, Ruth? So
sure
Jeannie,
we can. Sure.
I'm fine,
Ruth,
really.
Ruth, at
I'm
that
fine.
end. Go ahead, get.
That's great. Mount Si's kind of a hard hike because it's pretty up.
It is
Well-
steep.
You go up. Well,
Yeah.
You gain
a lot.
But we used to.
3,000 feet.
You know what I used to do? Excuse me for
Couple of
interrupting.
hours.
But on the way home from Everett, I'd take that road. You know, the road that goes. What's the highway? 160,
I
whatever.
forget.
405 until you got
405, yeah.
up to
Until then I'd turn off and go
I-90.
to Mount Si.
and go to I-90.
And then I'd practice this. I'd do this climb
Whew.
maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
and then come home.
You were in good shape, huh?
Yeah,
I was,
I
you bet I
was.
was.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Those days are long gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a
Anyway.
workout.
I gotta tell Jeannie this
Well, just a
story.
minute. I wanted you to open a tab.
I'm being slow, I know.
It's all right.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! These are so beautiful! Oh, I really love them.
Do you?
Yes. Look, it's
Oh,
the.
that's so fun. It's the
Yeah.
necklace, yeah.
Yeah, John,
That,
you know,
Josh.
Josh.
Josh
Really
Sanford.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're welcome.
Really so beautiful. Oh, I'm just thrilled. I'm putting it on right now. Oh, so pretty. Oh, my sisters will be so jealous.
Oh.
Johnny, you might have to help me.
It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I love it. I've never seen anything like it. I just love it.
And those are rhinestones around it. You know, that's one thing we learned from
Oh,
Josh.
there we go.
Yeah, Josh gave us quite a history.
Did he? Oh, that's
Mhm,
neat.
mhm.
Let me.
Yeah, he
The
was.
chain may be a little bit long, but I'm gonna leave that to
Well,
Jeannie.
Jeannie can.
So pretty.
It doesn't look too long on her, but
No.
it just depends on what you wear, I
You see?
guess.
Oh my god. It's
Yeah.
kind of elegant.
It
Oh,
really
they're so
is.
pretty. I'm so excited. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Little earrings?
Yes. Do you want these back?
Yeah.
You know I was getting these.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So pretty.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Now, you know, Jeannie, you're not gonna be the only one with one of those.
No?
No.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
That's cute. That's
Josh did a nice job. I enjoyed him.
Oh, Josh does
He's a nice guy.
beautiful
I haven't
work.
talked to him for a while. I've got to
Did
give
he,
him a call.
did he come out and visit you?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
he came out, he took these
He
things.
was a couple
Well,
of
first of
times.
all, you gotta explain to her what Josh did.
He is a really nice boy,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, he
He's a nice-
took that necklace that I have. This was a necklace that
and it
fit
was
about right.
all of them, right?
It was all
And
the
it
way
was-
around.
Yeah, yeah.
And he took them apart, but he found out he couldn't get them back together again, so he couldn't repair it as a necklace. So he,
We didn't want
he
it
just,
anyway.
No, so he took it apart and then he examined each piece individually and took the best one because some of them had a little rhinestone missing in them,
Uh-huh.
you know, and then he polished everything up.
I know they look
Yeah,
so
they're
much more brilliant than they were
beautiful.
before.
Yeah, because he did all that work of polishing, even the very back of them. It was
Yeah.
dull before, and he polished and polished it. That's why I say, if you had to pay him for his hours of work, you couldn't afford it.
I think he really loves what he does.
Well, he's
Like, I think
very
he-
good. I would recommend
I
anyone.
gotta show
to
Jeannie
him.
this picture here.
That's so nice.
Oh, I'm so
I
glad.
love it.
Good, good. I'm glad.
Oh, look at all the young boys.
Yeah, and that's what I thought.
Oh.
Now this is taken in the JRM, the Mars flying boat, and I didn't fly that one. My friend Neil did. See, here's the airplane that I was flying, and it looked about the same inside, except the Mars is bigger. I don't have a picture of the Mars here.
He's cute.
Smart dog. Anyway,
They almost look like they're having a good time here.
yeah, they're piled in there for pictures.
Yeah.
benefit.
That's so cute.
The guys look so young.
Don't they?
I was never that young.
But you look at some of this people they're sending overseas right now, and
They look-
yeah.
They look young to me
Yeah.
too.
Really
Yeah.
They look terrible.
Yeah. Way too young.
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad you like
I
it.
love it. Love it. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
you're
thinking of me. I
welcome.
really love
Oh,
it.
you're welcome.
So did he make a few necklaces and some earrings? Yeah.
Who else
Yeah.
got them? You don't tell, do you?
Huh?
You'll find out.
That's why.
I had, well,
I'll see.
I had enough for all the gals.
Love them. Love it. That's so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Her other daughter-in-laws,
Oh, yeah.
Patty.
Patty will get hers. Her birthday coming up in February.
Oh, it is in February.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I want her and Jeff to come out
Mhm.
and bring Delaney and of course Justin because I have a little birthday gift for
This is a
Delaney.
celebration.
Yeah. So give it to her.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yay.
Now you were going to
Okay,
tell
now I'm going to tell a story. Are you ready, John?
Mm-hmm.
Ready, set, go. Okay, now you have to remember that Ruth and I were living in Alameda, California, because that's where my base was. And this was a seaplane base. I was a flight engineer in VR2, flew these Coronados, 400 flying boats. But at this particular time, my mother was visiting us in Alameda. She had come down from Olympia via bus, and so she was staying a couple of weeks or whatever, I don't know, a week or whatever. But at any rate, while she was there,
seeing her new granddaughter.
yeah, oh, that's right. How old was the granddaughter by that time? A year old.
She's a year old.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite that old.
She was an awfully cute baby. At any rate, while she was down here, she said, Jim, I'd like to see the airplane that you're flying take off someday. And I said, well, that's not too hard to arrange. And I told Ruth, I said, you know where this point is, such and such a point, along San Francisco Bay, because that's what we take off from, see. There's part of it here, but I said, you could take Mom out there when I'm scheduled out. And turned out that I was called back out to the base that day, and it wasn't far to go. And I was asked to fly as a flight engineer on this airplane here. This is a PBM. See, it's a two-engine flying boat. And so I did my duty. I said, yes, sir. And no, it was a test flight. I remember that. And so the skipper had just taken this airplane off the water, because it's a flying boat too, see. And I said, I think you better land this thing. And he said, why? And I said, because you got a fuel leak in here somewhere. And he said, okay. And that's all it took from the flight engineer to get that airplane back on the water. So I got home early that day. I got home really early.
I wouldn't go while your mother was there. I didn't go anywhere.
And you know, wouldn't you know, but the phone rang pretty soon, and they said, Jim, we want you back out here to the base, because we cannot find this fuel leak on this airplane. And I didn't normally fly these. Most of the time I was flying this 4-engine type, but this day I'd taken a test flight, and taking a test flight, you record what, you know, fuel leak, don't know where, and that has to be signed off then before the airplane can fly again. Well, that's kind of getting around the point. So I'll get back to the main point. I went out there and to the base as they asked me to do. I couldn't find it. I remember talking with the engineering officer of the squadron, and I said, I can't tell you more. I said, it's probably in a hull tank, because these airplanes had hull tanks down in here, carried fuel, and then in the wing. They've had a lot of wing tanks here, no hull. But anyway, he said, well, do you know how much work it is to pull a hull tank out? And I said, it's a lot of work, I know. And I said, but that's my opinion. So anyway,
How did you know there was a leak?
Could
I could smell it.
Oh.
I could smell it.
Okay.
And so anyway, I told Ruth, I said, well, I'm back out early. And then the next day, I was scheduled for 2 o'clock flight. Okay. I said, Ruth, take Mom down to this point. We used to know the name of it, but I can't remember it anymore. And I said, you'll see us take off about 2 o'clock or shortly after. So in the meantime...
You were flying around San Francisco.
Yeah,
for
this flight was not a flight going out on a trip. It was just a
bond rally.
Bond rally, that's right.
Get
Just,
people to contribute
we're gonna get a whole bunch of
Oh,
airplanes.
really?
Yeah, so you're gonna fly, you know, about 10 different kinds of airplanes in a big circle around San Francisco, you know. Hey, take a look, buy some bonds.
Support the war effort.
Support the war, yeah.
Oh.
In the meantime, this 2Y, this is what we call this airplane, 2Y, because that's part of the designation, PB2Y. But anyway, I was sitting on the beach, and so one of the things that was interesting, the skipper came out, and I don't know who it was, but I knew him all by that time, and he said, well, we may not go, and of course we all said, great, maybe we don't have to fly, and because that was just extra duty for us, you know. And anyway, he said, I'm going back up and see what the score is, and I said, maybe we won't have to go. And I said, good. So I'm standing there in the hatch, and I thought maybe there was a hatch under the wing on the other side, a doorway where you get into the airplane and out. And anyway, while I was standing in the hatch, a group of fellows, young fellows, same age that you've just looked at in this book, came over and they said, we'd like to go for a ride with you if we may. Now the idea of going for a ride with us was the idea that they could put in so many hours a month. They had to put in something like 4 hours a month of flight time to get paid flight pay. This was some type of extra hazard, and in some ways it was.
And yet they were the ones who worked on the airplanes and kept them in running order.
Yeah, these people came over from what we call the A&R shop, an assembly and repair shop, or engine overhaul shop. Anyway, and these fellows, yeah, we said, sure, you can fly with us, because I don't know how long we may not go. We're kind of thinking about not going. And so, as a group, there were probably 4 or 5, and I don't really remember how many, but 4 or 5 said, well, if you go, we'd like to go with you. Good. So I said, you're more than welcome to go, But in the meantime, I said, you see that PBM on the ramp? And then, remember, they set on concrete, so you could, this is like sitting on that concrete, like a land plane, except it had to be getting water to take off. I said, you see that PBM over there? Well, go over and get a hold of either Patricia or Blanchard, and those were the right names. See, here's a picture of the 2Y up on the beach, see, with the beaching gear. And flight engineer's panel, that's what I look like. That's my job. Anyway, I said, go over and get a hold of Patricia or Blanchard, and you can go with them, because they're gonna go very soon. And, because I could see it was, you know, the airplane was ready to go, it was running up. So, okay, so as a group, they started over. Now there's 4 or 5 guys, and they moved away from me by maybe as much as 70 yards, something like that. You know, I don't know how many, 'cause maybe it was 150 yards over to where this airplane was on the beaching gear. But they moved ahead of me. I mean, they moved away from me as a group, and they got about, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 70, I don't really remember how far, but they got as a group, and they stopped and they had a conversation amongst themselves. And then they came back to see me in the hatch of this airplane, see? And they said, well, every month we put our flight time in on these PBMs, and if it's all right, we'll go with you, and if you don't go, that's all right, we'll put them in another day. And I said, well, that's all right with me. And so I said, why don't you get on board and find yourself a comfortable seat, and we'll find out if we're going to go pretty soon. And so my skipper came back about that time, and he said, well, I guess we're gonna go. And so, okay, we're gonna go. And we were neither surprised nor alarmed or anything else. We were out there. Here's what the Mars looked like flying, by the way. That's an airplane that Neil, my friend, flew. But anyway, should find another picture like that somewhere. But anyway, they came back and they got on the airplane and they sat there, and pretty soon the word came in that we were going to go. So, and the skipper climbed up on the flight deck, and I was sitting there where I could start the engines. And so we started the engines, and all 4 of the engines, and what do you know, they all ran. That's good. And so we went over the side, and that means we went into the water because we were on beaching gear. We went into the water from there, and we detached these big wheels and air compartments that let us bring it up on land. Detached those, and they're pulled back in by a little rope that's tied to them. So now we're free, don't have anything encumbering us. And so the skipper took it out to the airplane, to the runway where we take off, and he poured the coal to it, and he said, okay, we're going to go. You all set? Yep. So we're just going to go up and fly around in a circle. So we just got off the water, not very far off, and the skipper called us. He says, 7-2 to King 2 yoke, and you know, that's like calling from our airplane back to the headquarters, to the control tower of the airplane control tower, to King 2 yoke. And King 2 yoke answered it, and he said, just seen two airplanes collide at about 5,000 feet over point such and so. And about that time another voice came in, and he said, I don't think it was 2 airplanes colliding, there were 2 wings falling from a PBM that blew up. And of course this all coming on the intercom to me.
You can hear
I'm
it.
hearing it
You're
too,
listening
see.
to it all.
And I thought, oh God, couldn't be. Anyway, we continued our circle, and we went up and we circled around, and I knew damn well that if a PBM blew up, that was one of our airplanes. I had no way of knowing for sure which one it was, but I had an awful good guess, because I had grounded that airplane the night before.
That was a PB2Y4.
It was a PB2, it was a PBM.
PBM, okay.
PBM.
With the gas leak?
And that airplane blew to smithereens, everybody on it died.
Yeah.
And I've often thought of that, those 4 or 5 people
They were about to get.
that were about to get on. They saved their own lives by having this debate and coming back and writing with us. And I never wrote this thing up as a story. It happened. But and then I went home that day and I felt pretty bad because I knew both that
We
I
all
knew
did.
that yeah, and everybody felt bad, you know, and as were our crew members
We'd been
that
down
died, that were killed, and
You and his mother were
yeah,
down
and
there.
my mother was there,
Yeah.
and we ate dinner that night. I
With
remember
Janet.
that. Yeah, she was just a
She-
nuisance
yeah,
at that
she
point.
was- she was down there with us.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we finished our meal, and then my mother said, "Jim, was that airplane that blew up from your squadron?" And until then, I bet they didn't see it. I bet they didn't go there. They didn't see that. See, and I was hoping they didn't, but
Yeah.
I said yes, it was. And
You guys saw it happen?
We saw it happen.
uh,
Saw it
So-
blow up.
Oh.
It wasn't two airplanes, it was just that one blew up
yeah, so Ruth said she
over the
saw it.
water.
Oh.
Yeah, blew up, and that's pretty spectacular. But you know, I felt so many times about these 4 or 5 people that I almost sent over there to get on that airplane, and they would have died too, you know. Anyway, that's the story.
Wow, that's quite a story.
It
But
is-
then the sort of follow-up of that, where you were not called out to the
Yeah,
base.
that's an interesting thing too. You know, I figured, well, boy, they're gonna interrogate me because I squawked that thing. Somebody signed that squawk off, you know, on what we call the D sheet, discrepancy sheet. I said, somebody signed that off. Who signed it off?
And they hadn't changed the fuel,
You said something was wrong with it, and then somebody had to
sign it off.
Sign-
before
say
it-
that
To
it was
say,
fine.
to say
Somebody-
we found it or no, there's nothing
Exactly,
wrong with
Right.
it.
exactly.
Right.
Well, I figured they're gonna interrogate me, so I bet you that's when they're gonna start that. To this day, I haven't heard word one. Wow. I tell you, so one way or another, you know, the officers in that squadron buried that.
They had to.
They had that because the Buer would be, you know, the government is very strict on these interrogations. I remember sitting through an interrogation when we had an accident in mountains. A mountain climber had died. And boy, did they interrogate us on that thing, you know. You couldn't believe how thorough the investigation was. In this case, they never said word one. That's it. That's the story.
End of story.
Kind of grim story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a grim one.
You know, my second engineer, I mean, the fellow who flew second engineer with me was Harold Conley. And he went back to the East Coast with the body of one of these boys, with Patricia or Blanchard, I forget which one. But he was a good friend of one of them, and went back to the East Coast. But anyway, that's part of the story. That's the whole story as far as I know.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
Someone tell a funny story now. You asked me about that book.
Yes. What was your opinion? Did you read
Well,
it? The whole.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's just loaded with statistics. And if you open a few pages, you can see them. And I guess if I were to advise somebody on reading the book, read the printed matter, but don't worry about these statistics.
a lot of charts, a lot of data that's
Yeah,
not
that's
necessarily.
right. There's a lot of data in there, and he tells the story well enough. And the interesting thing is that you see, it reminds me of the same thing that I was mentioning. Did I mention it to you? The family ties between the Bushes.
Oh no.
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 I want to hear that though.
Well, he's written a new book, and I haven't read it.
Kevin
'cause
Phillips.
Kevin Phillips. That's just come out, but apparently he's been able to trace all these family ties to George Walker Bush, to Mr. Walker, to this guy and that guy, and the whole parade.
Goes
And
back a long
because what
ways.
he's doing, he's establishing the framework of a dynasty. And that's what he's got right now. So he's got the framework of a dynasty established. And I haven't seen the book, but I heard that's NPR radio, had about a half hour or an hour discussion with him on this book, and so he brought out many of the names that I am familiar with. And what he's done here then is show what's happened to in this country to wealth and democracy. That's right, and the wealth controls the democracy.
Yeah.
It's interesting about it does, and there's
It
always kind of
does.
a wealthy class. I mean,
Yeah.
democracy makes it available for people who don't have money to participate, but it doesn't necessarily put it in their favor at all. I
No,
mean,
it
it's
doesn't.
always easier with a lot
And
of
the
money.
table isn't really balanced.
No. It's
That's right.
interesting. Roosevelt was, quite wealthy and came from a lot of money
Yeah.
Yes,
from
he did.
trading in opium. And
Yeah.
that's my
Is that-
understanding.
Is that where the
yeah,
money came
yeah.
from?
Not him himself, but I think his grandfather or great grandfather did business in China, and they made a lot of
I
money.
hadn't heard about
yeah.
that.
And he, but the thing about that is that he, and one interesting thing is that he was always really mad at his peers that were so wealthy
Yeah.
because they didn't understand that he was actually they were going to exist because he was redistributing their wealth in a way that was going to be much more safe on them than, say, communism or some more radical.
Exactly,
And he
exactly.
couldn't get them to understand that they had to.
He had to
they
do
had to
something
bow
about
down
the
to,
distribution
Yep.
of wealth.
and that he was their best friend. That he was actually keeping their money for
I
them
gotta
because
get into the case and find
forcing
it.
them.
What book?
You can't find it. You want me to tell you?
Well, what?
Roosevelt and Churchill. It's a book that Bill Shadell wanted me to. He thought I ought to read it, and I did.
Where is it?
It's in the bookshelf. I'm going to go get
Which
it.
one? You know right where?
I can go get it.
No.
I'll go get it.
We're in
Okay.
this bookshelf, or?
Yeah, no. Look
In
at
the-
look at the second one, about the third or fourth line down. That's why I wanted to get out. It'll take me just about a minute. I can put my fingers on it.
Isn't too long.
Huh?
Takes you too long.
Doesn't take me long at all.
Oh, yes.
He's looking.
You find it?
I see Truman. Is it down? Would it be with those books?
Yeah.
Are they organized by subject?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, my subject matter didn't hold very long.
So
That's it.
there's I see a lot of mountain climbing books,
That's odd.
and I see some books here. Truman, The First Descent, Northwest Passage, World of Ice, American Indians, The Murrow Boys, The Conquerors.
No, I just hope I haven't.
Oh, that's probably
I
not it.
haven't moved it to a different shelf.
What's it called
Young
again?
Husband.
Roosevelt and Churchill. Roosevelt and Churchill. Well, Ruth, while I'm looking at these, why don't you go in and look in the study?
In case it's in there.
Hmm?
In case it's in there.
Yeah, it'd be on the north wall. It may be there.